else to get united. Like, what we gotta do is meet everybody on 149th Street at the bench.
Hey dudes, welcome back to the bench. Today we're going to be rating more of your guys' graffiti that you sent me over on Instagram. Link to that in the description down below if you want to get in on these videos. As always with these videos, I'm going to be scoring your guys' graffiti on a scale from 1 to 10. The number is a little bit arbitrary, don't get too hung up on that. But if you do get a low number, don't take it to heart. We all start off that way and we're here to learn, right? We're here to have a good time. Also, I would really like to collaborate with YouFO on this series because this is his series, right? This is something that he started. I know I mentioned it in the very first rating video I did, but I want to like speak it out into the ether that I want to collaborate with this man at some point. So if he sees this video, we gotta organize something. Oh, holy crap. Isn't that something? Oh my god, I love this. So me and Blipsqueek, the guy who went ahead and painted this, we've been friends for a long time, and we go back and forth talking about the science of art and how to create a whole new art form, the whole 9 yards. Like, we go in depth on these sorts of topics. So I've been watching him develop a more cubistic style of graffiti, and that's exactly what this is. And I'm loving the direction he's taking these paintings on. I'm very tempted to give this a 10 out of 10. I am really tempted, but at the same time, I don't want to do that to him because he himself has said that he hasn't touched a brush in some months, and he wants to go for a more realistic approach as well. So I know he can push that realism. I know he can get this to a higher point, and putting this at a 10 out of 10 would be unfair to him because I know his ability, right? And I know what he wants to do with this, and I've seen what he's done in the past. So we're gonna give this a modest 9.5. Is that fair? Is that fair to do? I think that's fair to do. Oh man, dude, I got neck problems, alright? I got some severe neck problems. Man, the fact that I gotta tilt my head this way makes me want to give you a 1 out of 10. Well, all jokes aside though, this looks really nice. This looks really fresh, man. Forgive me, I honestly, I genuinely, I can't keep my head slanted for all that long of a time. I really do have some serious neck problems. But from what I can see, it looks very nice. And it looks like you have the highlights in all the right spots, which is a huge step up from these critiques. We've been having a lot of people kind of struggling with highlights a little bit. Let me know if you guys want a highlights tutorial. I'll try to make a very in-depth guide to it. We also published a book about that very specific topic as well. If you guys are interested, I got a link in the description. But I want to give this a good 8 out of 10. I think this is very nicely done. Supak, like Tupac, but with an S. So when I check out this, wait, did you go over a piece? Did you go over somebody's piece with your are you starting beefs, my friend? Look, I don't know the context. I'm not going to speak on that anymore. But I will say, watch what you do, please, for the love of God. All right. With that said, I would say try to keep the throw up a little bit more simplistic. Now, the reason I say that is because when we check out the hand style, we can see that you're still new to graffiti. You're not really comfortable with your hand style just yet. You're still learning the ropes as far as the fundamentals are concerned, right? And when we see that and we compare that to the throw up, we see the large amounts of negative space. Despite the fact that you use a lot of these wavy lines throughout your letters, there's not a lot of uniformity or flow throughout your letters. Sure, you have the rounded bottoms and some rounded tops, but a lot of these letters don't really look anything alike. There's no line uniformity and similarity, and there's a lack of letter uniformity and similarity. Where do you have these really angular changes anywhere else in any of the other letters? Why does the K not have something like that if the A has something like that and they have pretty similar bottoms as far as throw-ups are concerned? A lot of these questions are things that come into play when we look at your throw-up. This tells us that you need a lot of fundamental work with not only your hand style but your throw-up as well. So for that reason, I'd say keep things a little bit more ovular. Is that even a word? I don't know, but we're gonna go with it, right? Keep things a lot more rounded in an oval shape, we'll say, and kick it back as far as being fancy with your letters. We'll give this a good 4.5, maybe 5 out of 10 at most. And much of the same thing goes here, right? We can tell that you're very new to graffiti. You haven't really gotten used to much of any of the fundamentals for graffiti. And we especially see this with the other work that you submitted here, where the element of art line is still very inexperienced. That's a huge red flag in any art form. If you see an artist's line work is not up to snuff when it comes to pens and pencils specifically, that is a massive red flag. Because if they have other skills that surpass that, then it means that they typically are either biting, copying, or finding inspiration in order to fuel those higher skill level or highly stylized letters. A lot of these lines struggle to even be straight with a simple pen. This is very problematic. So for that reason, I'm going to say keep it simple, practice the basics, and try to learn those fundamentals before adding style. So for that reason, we're going to give this a good 2 or 3 out of 10. And then we move to the next piece right here, where we're seeing a lot of line work issues as well. And I remember this guy's work from the past. We had spoken a little bit in the DMs before, where I told him to keep it simple, practice the basics. And it looks like he actually did that because we are seeing a lot of progression from his previous work to this right here. But that progress happened over a very short period of time. And when we check out the hand styles, we see a lot of those fundamentals still need a lot of work. Things like letter structure, negative space management, flow, so on and so forth. So at this point, we're still seeing a little bit too much style for his work. Things that don't quite make sense, like this extension and this one up here, they aren't really functioning well at all. But at least now the basic boxes actually line up. That's a huge improvement. improvement, and I like seeing that improvement. But in order to continue improving, you gotta practice those fundamentals. I would say do line studies, like literally study the elements of art line, and keep your pieces simple. Keep doing what's been giving you progress. Now, he told me that this piece was upside down and mirrored. Kept it nice and safe, nothing too crazy, pretty straight, like literally pretty straight and angular. So, you know, not much to say here other than good work. Good 7 out of 10. Now, our friend Reek here went ahead and submitted for the video as well, and for this, I'm gonna say practice shapes. When you have clean shapes, your letters are going to look cleaner as well, because guess what? We draw our letters using shapes. So the more you're able to illustrate a nice clean shape like a square, triangle, circle, so on and so forth, the cleaner your letters are going to become. We'll give this a good 2 out of 10. Not a bad early attempt at a throw up, man. Keep it up. Keimer, I hope I'm saying the name right. I'm not sure if I am, but we've seen his work in the past. And while I don't exactly remember what I said about the previous piece he went ahead and submitted, I do know that this is an improvement. Fundamentally speaking, the only thing that really stands out is the segmentation at the bottom of the M here that doesn't really happen anywhere else. And you can't even say it happens on the I because the I isn't segmented, it's just small. This is fundamentally sound, so we'll give this a good 7 out of 10. I think there is a lot of room for improvement though. And I also noticed with the previous works, from what I remember, you do a lot of the same pieces over and over again. And we could tell you're an experienced graffiti artist. I mean, we just have to take one look at your hand style. We can tell that you have a couple of years under your belt. So for that reason, I would say to avoid it, I would try to go and learn different letter structures, right? Incorporate different types of lowercase r's and uppercase r's. Incorporate the many different kinds of e's that are out there and try out different m's, i's, and k's. This will force you in order to find different solutions for the same problems that you might have been having in the past, which will then broaden your horizons and give you a larger repertoire. Kid next door, probably late? You're not, you're just in time, buddy. Let's check out what you got here. Oh, that's a pretty solid piece right there, man. Oh my god! I remember those characters when I was a kid. Holy crap! I didn't see them at first. that literally shocked me and blew my mind. Love it. I want to give it a 10 out of 10 just for that and that alone. But we can't ignore the fact that this piece very easily could have been shrunken down just a little bit, not much at all. It wouldn't have taken anything away from the piece in order to shrink it down enough to fit on the page. I mean, look at this. Your arrows are just barely off the page. There was 2 ways that you could have gone about fixing this. You either A, like we just discussed, you could have shrunk it down a little bit, or B, you could have repositioned the arrows. Composition is not something to underestimate in art. Like literally, some pieces are considered masterpieces just because of how good composition they have. Graffiti artists famously ignore compositions in its entirety, and it's never something you want to do. Make sure your pieces have good composition. Study the topic. Now we gotta go ahead and check out the work that Smoe submitted. This guy, this guy claims that this is his best work yet. And you know what? I gotta say, I agree with him. I'm not gonna lie. I really agree with the statement because look at how these little bits of the piece go down off of the actual wall itself. Now this is something that you might have seen Odith do and a couple of other graffiti artists, and it really is a very dope technique. It's not exactly the easiest either because you have to line it up with the horizon line of the actual camera where you're taking the photograph. Otherwise, when you step out of line, it's going to get skewed into perspective. So actually sketching this in the first place isn't exactly the easiest process, but when done correctly, it looks really, really clean. I honestly, dudes, I gotta give this a 10 out of 10. I gotta do it. This well deserves a 10 out of 10. One thing I would say, and this is not by any means even a criticism, because it happens to every single artist. I mean, for God's sakes, it happens to Leonardo da Vinci. And if it happens to Leonardo da Vinci, it happens to everybody, alright? Nobody's better than tangents, but you got a little bit of a tangent right here where the line of the shadow lines up with the line of the cast shadow as well. So that's something that you would typically want to avoid because tangents flatten an image. Now granted, this has so much depth to where this is negligible, right? This is completely negligible. The only reason I'm pointing this out is to inform you guys at home watching that this is something that you might want to look out for because you guys at home aren't really going to be layering your piece over the wall and the floor, so this might affect you in a little bit more of a serious way. But for Smoe, it's not a problem. Don't worry about it. I also love the colors. I love the gray and the red. Like, that looks really, really nice together. I'm a big fan of that. Alright, I think that pretty much wraps up today's video. Dudes, if you want to learn more about graffiti, I published a bunch of how to do graffiti books. I got them in the description down below. A lot of that money from here on out is going to go directly into funding the very next book, which we're writing a book about style and how it functions for every single art form. Now, if you want to check out some more graffiti tutorials as well, we got this playlist right up here. And right down here, we got more graffiti content. But as always, man, I gotta thank you guys for watching. I really do appreciate the support. I'll catch you guys back here next week.